So you're trying to get started with flash photography, but you have no idea what to buy when it comes to equipment. Well, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down all the gear that you need to get started and also some of my favorite recommendations so you know exactly what to buy to get started with flash photography. All right, so let's get straight into it. This is the flash photography gear buying guide. So this is what we're going to cover. We're going to cover speed lights, strobes, triggers, modifiers, and accessories. All right, so first let's get into speed lights. So I'm going to touch on speed lights a little bit just so you know what they are and just kind of some of the main points that I want to let you know about. So speed lights, number one, they are easy to use. So if you're a beginner, this is the perfect flash to buy just because they're simple to use. As a beginner, I think a strobe just could be too much, you know, being somebody who's just starting out. So I recommend getting just a speed light because they're easy to use. So number two, they aren't very expensive. Now, I'm not saying they're cheap. I know I may get attacked in the comments. I know people trip on that, but it's easier entry than a strobe. Strobes are more expensive. So if you want something that's a little bit on the cheaper side, or if you're on a budget, definitely check out speed lights. And number three, they're great for beginner photographers who are new to flash photography, studio, portrait, and events. So those are some of the niches where I feel like speed lights are great. I use them a lot for studio work, portraits. I use them as my rim lights, and then events. They've honestly kind of become my go-to when it comes to events. All right, so let's get into the actual speed lights. So you have the Godox V1. So I recently did a video about this. It was a first impressions, and I showed some sample images. So if you want to check that out, I'm going to link that in the card up top. But that's a really good speed light. As you can see, compared to the other options, it's pretty pricey. It took me a while to buy it. I kept going back and forth, but I actually needed it because I just needed more backup flashes. But it's definitely worth the money, and I think it's one of those things. When it comes to gear, you definitely get what you pay for. When it comes to certain stuff, you can go cheaper, but you know, when it comes to actual flash and you know, maybe a camera, I definitely think if you can pay more to just go ahead and get that option, right? The V1 is great. It has a couple better features than the TT685 and the V862. For example, the modeling lamp, so that can come in handy. I think it has faster recycle times, longer rechargeable batteries. So that's the thing when it comes to purchasing a speed light. I don't want you to overthink it, like, oh, because I know it's a lot of different options. They pretty much all do the same thing. They're giving you extra light. It's artificial light. Now what you get, the difference between them mainly is just more features. Like with the V1, you have the modeling lamp, maybe faster recycle times, or maybe longer battery life. So I'm just telling you that because I don't want you to overthink it, like, oh, which one is better, blah, blah, blah. They pretty much do the same thing, right? So also the TT685, that's one that I use a lot. Y'all see me talk about it in my videos. It's a really solid speed light. It's 156 bucks. You can't go wrong with that one. In the V862, I actually haven't used that speed light. Now, all of this stuff besides that light I've used that I'm going to talk about in this video, but I've heard a lot of good stuff about that flash just from the photography community on Facebook and Instagram. So you can't go wrong with either of these. Now, my favorite is probably the V1. I just like the round head, the ease of use, the rechargeable battery is really good, the modeling lamp features, so you can't go wrong with the V1, but just go with whatever fits your budget, right? All right, so just wanted to show y'all some images. I use the Godox V1 on this image as a backlight, so just to give them some illumination in the surrounding area, some illumination, right? And this is with the Godox TT685. As you can see, I used them as rim lights. I also used the mag mod gels to create the color. So you can see you could use speed lights as just accessory lights like rim lights, a backlight, rim light. You could also use it as a main light in certain situations, but just wanted to show y'all those examples. All right, so let's talk about strobes now. Strobes are my favorite. I love these. All right, so a little information about strobes. So Number one, these are more expensive than Speedlights. Like I was saying earlier, these can get very pricey. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Yeah, if you want a good strobe, you're gonna have to pay for it, but you definitely get a lot of bang for your buck. So yeah, number two, they have more power and great battery life. So that's just a feature of using a strobe over a speed light. You get way more power. So this could really come in handy depending on what type of photography you shoot and when you shoot. Like I use a lot of high speed sync. I'm shooting in harsh light, so you know that having that extra power available really comes in handy, right? And number three, they're great for studio and portrait photographers. So you see a lot of studio and portrait photographers, outdoor portrait photographers using strobes, right? All right, so let's get into some of my favorite strobes. So the first one, the Godox AD200. Love this strobe, and I actually have a review. I'm gonna link that in the card up top if you want a full review about that strobe. So love the 200. I think as you can see, it's a cheaper option than the 400 and the 8600. You can't go wrong with the 200. It's small. It's 200 watts, but it's definitely enough. I've used it outside. I've used it using high speed sync in harsh light. It can definitely handle that stuff, but I do find myself in certain situations wanting and needing more power. So that's why I mainly go with the other two options. You could see the 400 Pro. It's 400 watts, and it also has a good modeling lamp. Now you have one with the 200. It's just like a small light. You can't adjust the power of it. But with the 400, you could actually crank that thing up real bright. So if you shoot like night shoots, or you just want to use some continuous lighting, even with studio work, the 400 Pro is hands down my favorite strobe. You can't go wrong. I actually caught mine on sale because as you can see, it's pretty pricey during the Christmas sale. So, and I have a video about that. I'll link that up top too if you want to know more about the 400 Pro. In the AD600, so this is the first strobe I got. As you can see, it's 600 watts. It's the most powerful. Now, I love this strobe, man. It was a workhorse, but the thing is big and heavy. And yeah, I just wanted something more portable and compact, but still gave me enough power. So that's why I went with the 400 Pro. And I don't find myself missing that extra power that I had with the 600. 400 watts is plenty for what I shoot. I love the modeling lamp features, so can't go wrong with any of these, but my favorite is the 400 Pro. So just want to show y'all some images. This is with the Godox AD200. So, and these were situations, I think this was my niece. It wasn't very sunny, but this day when I shot my son, it was pretty sunny. So, and these were shot with the Godox 400 Pro. Love these images, especially this one. In the Godox AD600. So just want to show y'all those examples. So let's move on. Let's talk about triggers. All right, so a little bit about triggers that I feel like you need to know. So you need triggers to communicate and control the settings of your flash. So with the trigger, you just put it on the hot shoe mount of your camera, and you can control that power output. You can do more power, you could do less power. You could also change the flash mode. So you could go to TTL, multi. You could do all that from the trigger on your camera, right? And number two, very important right here, because I see a lot of people having issues with this. So make sure your trigger is compatible with your camera brand. And I put an example. You have the X1TS is compatible with Sony. So this is something that I was confused about when I got into flash. I ended up purchasing the wrong trigger because I didn't know about this. So this is why I'm telling you, very important. But you can see how it has X1TS. So with a lot of these triggers, you're going to see the actual trigger name, and you'll see like a C. You'll see like a F or a S, and that stands for your camera brand. So F is for Fuji, C is for Canon, S is for Sony. So make sure you get the right brand, or it's not going to work, right? All right, so some of my favorite triggers that I think you should check out. So the first one is the Godox X1T. It's a really solid trigger, but I honestly recommend the X2T or the Godox X Pro if you're going to buy a trigger. Now, not saying there's anything wrong with this one. It can definitely do the job. But I like with the XT2 that it has, you can see, let me show y'all, you can see the group buttons right here. It makes it easier to access those groups and change those settings quicker. Now with the X1T, you have to, it's just weird how it's kind of set up. It just makes it harder to change your settings. And with Flash, you have to be quick. You can't be fiddling around with your gear so much. So the X2T makes it easy. And the X2T also has a safety lock on the hot shoe mount. And with the X1T, I used to feel like it was going to break off of the hot shoe. And I don't feel that with the X2T because it has that safety lock. So that's a real good thing that I like about it. And the X Pro, I love that one too. I love how the menu screen is bigger. Yeah, it's just better, honestly. And it also has those groups laid out on the side, so you could just click on that specific group, change the setting, bam, you're done. Versus with the X1T, you have to roll the wheel and press different buttons. It makes it harder. So I would recommend going X2T or Godox X Pro versus the X1T, right? So moving on, let's talk about modifiers. I know y'all want to learn about modifiers. This is the good stuff. So all right, so a little bit about modifiers. So number one, they shape and control light. So simply put, that's what modifiers do. They're helping you soften the light and just control the light, right? So number two is some of the cheaper options are just as good as the expensive ones. So really wanted to make that point because I think a lot of photographers feel like they have to sometimes get just all the expensive stuff, but you don't. I have some solid modifiers that don't even cost a lot. My first one I got was on Amazon. It was super cheap, but it did the job. You just need stuff that's going to do the job. Now, when it comes to price difference with these modifiers, I've noticed the more expensive ones, they're just better quality. It's doing the same thing as a cheaper modifier. It's just better quality, better build, and it's probably going to last longer versus a cheaper one, right? And number three, the bigger the modifier, the softer the light. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you have a bigger modifier, it's probably going to produce a softer light versus a smaller modifier, right? So moving on. So some of my favorite recommendations right here. So number one is the 42-inch glow easy lock for 99 bucks. Y'all see me talk about this a lot in my videos, and that's because I love this modifier, and I actually have a review about it. I'm going to link it in the card up top, but I feel like it's the perfect size. It's 42 inches. Man, I use this for everything, y'all. Portraits, studio work, just everything. It's my favorite go-to modifier, and it's really big, so it produces a really nice and soft light, right? So moving on to the 20-inch glow easy lock deep parabolic, and let me just say something. So you see with these modifiers in marketing, you'll see people say, you'll see different names like deep parabolic and all this stuff. So kind of like what I was saying about Speedlights, like don't get caught up in all that stuff. For the most part, these things, they all do the same thing. Like you're not going to see a huge difference. I've kind of tested it a little bit and I want to do a video about it, but I haven't seen a big difference using just the regular beauty dish, the 42-inch glow versus the 20-inch deep parabolic. So they kind of market these things as if, you know, they produce a different look. But from my experience, it's not really a big difference. If it is, it's a very subtle difference that you can barely tell, right? But the 20-inch is great. This is just a smaller one that I got just when I don't want to pull out the big 42-inch. I use it a lot for studio work, but I've also used it for portraits. So you can't go wrong with that. I just like having a big option and a smaller option when it comes to this. And lastly, the Magma Flash Kit. I actually have a video about this too. I'll link that in the card up top. But I mainly use this for events. Just a smaller modifier that I could pop on my flash when I'm shooting on camera flash. Now you could also use the Mag Sphere for portraits. I've used it for portraits a little bit, but it's my go-to modifier for event photography. So if you're an event photographer, you definitely want to check out Magma. They're super easy to use. As you can see, it's kind of pricey, excuse me, but you get a lot of different accessories like the grid, the magnets, the CTO gels, the colored gels, and they're very quick to use too, and just to change out different things. So You can't go wrong with mag mod. But my favorite out of all these is the 42-inch glow easy lock, hands down. All right, so lastly, we're just going to cover a couple of accessories that you need to know about. So you have the Godox S bracket. So this is pretty much what you put your flash in, and you can attach your modifier to this S bracket. So you're going to need this. So this is something that you need. And I actually get a lot of questions about these brackets and stuff. So make sure you get a bracket to attach your modifier to. And the Godox S2 bracket, I actually just got this one, but it's pretty much an upgrade over the S bracket. I had tried to fit my V1 in the Godox S bracket, but it wouldn't fit. So you can fit it in the S2. You can see at the bottom, it's kind of rounded versus the S is just straight at the bottom. So it fits like the round head attachments, like the Godox 8200 round head attachments, the Godox V1. So it could fit those flashes. So that's important to know. And then you could also change out the bottom, and it has that straight attachment. So you could fit other flash, just regular Speedlight heads. So I like the S2. All right, y'all. So if you want to learn more about flash photography, so not gear, but the technical side, like light placement, different settings, then I have a series on my channel that covers all of that. I'm going to link that in the card up top. Always point the wrong way. So check out that series if you want to learn more about flash. And thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to drop a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I post new videos every single week. I will see y'all in my next video. Peace.